Hi, welcome to Chapter 4. Let's talk about leisure and recreation for individuals and society. This chapter considers the leisure of the individual living in a society when it comes to families, clans and tribes, neighborhoods and communities, villages, towns and cities, gangs and clubs, unions, associations, and congregations. Human existence and development cannot occur without support from interaction with others. Leisure as a complex social phenomenon. Leisure is affected by many social institutions: economics, politics, work, technology, and war. Solitary leisure in society. A few activities are predominantly solitary. Some are purely social, and most can be either private or communal. Consider the following. Solitary leisure does not take place in a social vacuum. Individuals and groups profoundly affect our solitary leisure activities. And leisure activities while we are alone influence the people and the world around us. The world around us. The world around us affects our private leisure in three ways. Number 1, by supporting it. Number 2, by infringing on it. And 3, by forcing us into it. Here are some questions to ponder. Solitary leisure and its effect on others. How does one person's leisure directly and indirectly affect those around him or her? How can solitary leisure have a positive influence on others? How can solitary leisure have serious negative consequences, not just to the person, but to those around the person? And how can even a single act of solitary leisure have both negative and positive influences? Implications for leisure professionals. Recognize the benefits and costs of solitary leisure pursuits to individuals, those around them, and society in general. Most solo leisure activities require space, some equipment and materials, and unencumbered time, but not a great many resources. Recognize and educate the public about the essential balance that must exist between solitary leisure and leisure that directly involves others. Primary groups define. Primary groups are small groups in which there are face-to-face relations of a fairly intimate and personal nature. The two basic types are families and cliques. In other words, they are organized around ties of either kinship or friendship. Most leisure is undertaken with others. Other people involved in the leisure activity are not merely bystanders, they are essential components of the activity. In general, people are more important in leisure than the form of the activity itself. Social custom and societal expectations profoundly affect leisure when it is undertaken in the family and with close friends. The lifespan and family cycle in typical leisure activities are: some leisure activities are common, and some are less common at different stages of life. A core of activities persists through a person's life, especially in their adult years. General types of leisure also tend to be common for many members of the same age group, and variation or balance exists among and between the age groups. Leisure and the family. Different cultures have various forms of kinship groupings. The same culture may change its notion of family over time. Families move through a series of predictable stages. The stages are not separate and distinct with sharp dividing lines. Rather, each stage tends to merge into the stage before and after it. Henslin defines a secondary group as a larger, relatively temporary, more anonymous, formal, and impersonal group based on some interest or activity, whose members are likely to interact on the basis of specific roles. The influence that an individual has in the secondary groups, while not obvious, is real. For example, at a Cubs game. Similarity and diversity in leisure. We must recognize not only diversity, but also our similarities. Human beings are 99.9% alike. We must celebrate and appreciate our differences. This balance is evident in leisure activities. Gender is a social category that includes attitudes, expectations, expressions of masculinity and femininity. Sex refers to the biological component of either being male or female. Gender is one of the most defining characteristics that human beings possess. Because of that, it is linked to leisure and many complex relationships. Males have enjoyed a privileged position in all Western cultures. Recreation activities for women have taken place in the home and have had a domestic component such as cooking, decorating, providing activities for children. Women are still responsible for the major duties in them maintaining home and family. On average, women spend 50 hours each week on family work, whereas men spend an average of 11 hours. This imbalance limits the time available to women for leisure. Russell's 5 conclusions. 1. Disparity has decreased over the past century, but men continue to experience more leisure in terms of breadth and depth. 2. Long entrenched roles for each gender significantly affect recreation. 3. Men's recreation more often takes place beyond the confines of the home. Women more often participate in leisure in the home. Women's leisure and recreation is fragmented because of the burden of the family care, and men can block out an entire afternoon or even a few days exclusively for leisure. Older women especially may labor under the false belief that leisure must be earned or that they may not be entitled to it at all. Leisure, ethnicity, and race. Race refers to biological characteristics. Ethnicity refers to cultural characteristics. Hinsland notes that people of the same ethnicity identify with one another on the basis of common ancestry and cultural heritage. Leisure participation rates vary according to the race and ethnicity. Religion has always been the anchor of the identity for human beings. Religious beliefs give meaning to life, and the experiences associated with them provide personal gratification, as well as release from the frustrations and anxieties of daily life. Relationship among leisure, recreation, and religion in the United States is long-standing and complex. The leisure of most citizens was dominated by religion when America was just beginning. Churches have recently used recreation as a tool to foster a sense of community, attract members, and keep members from activity that is harmful. People of nearly all societies are characterized according to some combination of wealth, power, party affiliation, life chances, and prestige. Some systems, like the caste system in India, are rigid. The boundaries are distinct, and movement between the various categories is nearly impossible. A class system is much more fluid. Overlap is present between classes, and people may move up and down among the classes. Newman's class system for the United States is 1. The upper class is made up of owners of vast property and wealth. Some estimate that 0.5% of the upper class owns more than 25% of the country's wealth. Number 2. The middle class is made up of managers, small business owners, and professionals. 3. The working class is made up predominantly of laborers who make modest wages and own little property. 4. Lower or poor class members are those who either work for minimum wages, are often unemployed, or unemployable. How does this affect sports participation? Recent research on sports and social equality in the United States demonstrates a general pattern of the underrepresentation of people from the lowest income levels among active participants in organized sports and physical recreation. Economic stratification is at least a filter, with low income simply eliminating the majority of the population from the cost-intensive activity. Benefits of leisure. Parks and recreation. The benefits are endless. National Recreation and Park Association. 1. Individual benefits. Physiological and psychological. Social benefits, economic and environmental. Structural constraints, time and money and health and equipment. Interpersonal, fear and low self-esteem. Interpersonal, family responsibilities and lack of leisure partners. Good and bad leisure and recreation, these are difficult to determine because of the differences in individual values and interpretations. Several competing theories differ about what is good and bad and right and wrong. The individual and the various societies of which he or she is part of jointly determine goodness in all things, including leisure and recreation. What are the implications for professionals? Professionals must continue to drive home the point that leisure and recreation are essential. They are so important, in fact, that humans, regardless of their lot in life, have them by right, not because they are of a particular correct color, age, ethnicity, gender, religion, or class.